Today's episode is sponsored by Learning Blade. Middle school is the ideal time for career exploration. With Learning Blade, you can easily integrate STEM and career awareness concepts into your classroom. Find out if this resource is free in your state at learningblade.com. Thanks, Learning Blade. Hey, is this thing on? Are we recording? Can I get a tech person? Oh, for the love of ed tech. Joining me today is Dan Hileman, educator and technologist at Biomed Science Academy. And I'm super excited that Don's joining us today because we're going to find out about his journey into education via the gaming industry. So, hey, Don, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Thank you. And thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about the gaming industry, how did you end up in education?
It's kind of a long story.
Okay.
I was always in tech. I've always worked in tech. I've been doing tech since I was little. I think I programmed my first game on a Commodore 64 computer at 9.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I'm kind of showing my age there a little bit. But long story short, my wife and I had started our own studio back around 2014, 2015. And we
Okay.
were focused in virtual reality. At that point, it was so new that there wasn't even anything out on the market yet. You had to be a developer to get dev kits.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so we started with something we heard. We kept hearing this word come around: Oculus, Oculus, Oculus. And I'm like, what the heck is this Oculus? And I started reading up on it, and I found out it was virtual reality. And I'm like, I got to get one of those. So I ended up ordering one. And back then, computers were not ready for VR. So we had to build a computer just to run this thing.
Oh my
The-
gosh.
oh, yeah. The minute I put that thing on, though, and I was in that world and I could look around and I was like immersed in it, I was sold. I told my wife, I said, this is it. This is the future right here. This is going to change how we work, live, and play. And a couple months later, we decided to start a studio, and we started in our basement. And we got rolling with things. And because virtual reality was so hot back then, our company took off really fast. Within a year and a half's time, we had a studio. We had, I believe, 6 employees. We had a small recording studio. We had a small motion capture studio, and we were being featured on like PlayStation's website and their YouTube channel. We were being featured. Like one time, there was um, a reporter from the largest newspaper in Germany that came into our studio and interviewed us, and we ended up being on the front page of that newspaper. Can't tell you what it said because it was all in German, but we
That's
were on
so
the front
cool.
page, good or for better or worse. But everything was really taken off, and the problem was we were just so early, and we
Mm.
ran out of funding. And right around that time, I was asked to come and be a guest speaker to talk about the game industry and VR and stuff at one of the local career tech schools.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, so I went out there and I was only supposed to be there for maybe an hour, and I ended up spending most of the day there. It was so exciting. The kids were excited. They had a lot of questions. They couldn't wait to show me the things that they were working on. And it was amazing. I came home and I told my wife, I said, this is amazing. I said, I wish I could do this every day. It's so much fun to work with them and show them the things that I know and watch them do it and their take on it and how they're taking what I'm showing them and going in different directions. And it just so happened at the exact same time there was another career tech that was looking for somebody to take over their technology program. And I didn't understand how career tech worked. I thought I had to go to school to be a teacher, which you do, but it's different.
Okay.
With career tech, you get hired in. They base it off of your industry experience. You have to have at least 5 years experience, and then you go to school while you're teaching. And long story short, I got offered the job, and I went to school at Kent State University and got my career tech license. And at that time, the program was they were teaching junior. I was teaching juniors software and hardware, and then seniors I was teaching networking and networking security. and we
Oh,
were not
okay.
getting, yeah, we weren't getting good enrollment numbers. We were getting about 4 or 5 students a year. Historically, that's all they were getting to sign up for it. So towards the end of my first year, I was really lucky. I had a good principal. I said, can we change things up? This is not working. And he goes, what do you have in mind? I said, let's go off of my experience. Let's go into game design. I said, we're fighting with the kids every day to keep them off the games. Instead of fighting with them, let's embrace them and let me teach them how to program. Let me teach them file management. Let me teach them all these things. And I was really lucky. He said, let's do it.
Oh,
And the
that's
following
awesome.
Oh yeah, the following year we had like over 60 students sign up for the program. So it exploded. And I worked there up until last year, and it just so happened that Biomed Science Academy had an opening, and they were looking for a 7th grade technology instructor. And I went out for the interview, and it was just something different about that school. It's you walk around it, it reminded me more of Google. It's
Oh,
just a
wow.
different, yeah, different kind of school. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I told my wife, I said, wow, I really, really want to be there. And things just ended up lining up perfectly, and a position opened up, and they called me, and that's how I got to where I'm at right now.
Oh my gosh. How cool. And I love that the kids were so excited and you took like that approach to kind of like meet them where they are in the sense of what they were interested in.
Oh, it's a lot easier to teach them when they buy into what they're doing. And the kids, they love game design. But here's the thing: a lot of people think game design is just all fun and games. The
Mhm.
amount of things you have to know and the knowledge you have to create a game. I mean, there's story writing, there's obviously the programming, there's 3D art, there's animation, there's physics, there's so many different things. And the students, they end up, when they do this, they end up learning how to think differently because they have to think through problems. They get really great problem solving skills. It's really good for them. And honestly, the game design industry is a huge industry. There are careers out there where these kids can go on and have 6-figure a year jobs.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, especially if they like it. And yeah, like you said, the skills. I mean, it's more than just
Just playing
like
games.
yeah, yeah, just playing games, I guess. Yeah, that's the best
Yeah, and
wording.
the way I see it is, if a student can program a game, they can
Mhm.
program anything because they're learning how to program, how to think like a programmer. Plus, programming games, that's real time. That's real time technology. So their programming has got to be really clean and very optimized to be able to hit those 60 frames per second. Whereas software is not real time. You have to be really good at software, but it's a little more forgiving than say something that's running like virtual reality or augmented reality or games or training simulations, any of that real time stuff.
Yeah, that's yeah, I guess I'm taking this all in because I'm like amazed thinking about high school kids doing this kind of stuff.
Well, what's really cool is at Biomed we did it with 7th graders this year.
Graders. I was going to say middle school now. That's
Yeah, we didn't know how they were gonna do with it, and I really didn't know because I'm used to teaching 11th and 12th grade.
yeah.
And I had a feeling that they would pick it up. We taught them or I taught them Unreal Engine this year. And Unreal
Okay.
Engine is an industry program. They use that to make Mortal Kombat. They use it to build Fortnite. They used it to build all the Batman Arkham games. So it's a major piece of software to learn. And we have 7th graders that are not just learning it, but I mean the things that are coming out of my room right now is amazing. It's really blowing my mind what they're doing, what they're creating. I had a student the other day, he showed me something, and I kid you not, it looks like it came off one of the professional stores. Like, I thought, I was about ready to start yelling at him because I thought he downloaded a game and was playing it, and here it was his. And it's very exciting to work with them, and it's just seeing what they come up with and what they create. It's amazing.
Wow. Okay. So, how has your background in game development influenced the way that you teach game design, animation, and motion capture?
I think my coming from the game industry, I know what the students really need to know because
Mhm.
um, sometimes in education there's things that we're given that we have to teach standards and stuff like that. And those don't always align perfectly with what the actual industry is, especially in
Mhm.
tech, because it can align this week and next week everything can change and shift. And I think having that background and, you know, going through a lot of those ups and those downs with running a studio and when we were on top and then going down and then, launching and publishing, those are all real world experiences that I could bring to the classroom and I could tell the students. I use a lot of stories in my classroom. When we were at the studio, this happened. The reason I'm teaching you this is because this is what happened to us. And I think it adds a little bit of context to what I'm teaching.
Yeah, which I think is extremely useful for them to know that kind of background. So, can you maybe just list some of those real world skills that you either prioritize or you feel like they are gaining from this?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I'm really big about in my class is I love when the students are trying to do something new that we haven't learned in class.
Mhm.
But I'll have 100 students to me coming to me and wanting, how do I do this? And it's some advanced coding. And if I try to figure out all that coding every day, my brain would explode. So one of the things I teach them is, you know, Google it. If you could learn how to use Google and know what key terms to use to find what you want fast, you could do anything. And I always tell them, you got pretty much a university right in front of you with YouTube. Anything you want to know, you can learn from there. So that's definitely one of them. And then just the problem, the troubleshooting and the problem solving skills, because I tell them all the time, if you're not breaking code, you're not coding. And that journey that it's going to take you to find the answer, you're going to learn 50 zillion different things that don't pertain to your problem, but you would never learn those if you didn't have that problem and you weren't trying to find that answer. So those are definitely some of the things. And then I bring in a little bit of project management with them where, you
Oh.
can't just work on this forever. There is a deadline. And if you don't hit that deadline, here's what happens. And I'm hoping that a lot of these students, when they leave, they graduate and they leave the school, that even if they don't go into game design or programming, that some of those things will help them in their everyday careers.
Yeah, I like that so much. Teachers, you can now earn contact hours toward grad credit for listening to the podcast.
Visit fortheloveofedtech.org for more information.
So, can you walk us through how students engage with the game design and animation? Kind of like what a day or a project kind of like looks like for them?
Yeah, yeah. Well, in my class, what we do is we'll start on a project together,
Okay.
and we'll do the coding together. And what I do is I bring it up on my big screen and they can see it, but then I also use Google Meet and I'll broadcast my desktop to all of theirs so that they could see it up close. And we'll write code together and I'll explain every piece of it and why we're doing it. And sometimes I'll purposely mess it up and then it won't work and I'll say, I don't know what's going on. And then I have those couple students, oh, Mr. H, you forgot to do this or you forgot to do that. And it brings in a whole different level of learning and they're learning from each other. And now it's at a point where we'll get done and I have them work on a project on their own. And I'm seeing students coming together and they're helping each other out. And some of the features that they're adding to their games, I'm looking at, I'm like, that took a lot of thought and it's way beyond anything that we're learning in class. But that's how we do it. We work together. And the one student, one time, it was funny, she goes, I'm not learning anything. You're showing me what to program. I said, what's a function? She goes, what's a list of actions? I said, what holds values? She goes, a variable. I said, what kind of variable is a whole number? Well, an int. I said, you did learn things. I said, we're working together and you're not so hyper fixated on trying to remember the code. You're learning how to code. And once you learn how to code, you can jump from programming language to programming language.
So, she was learning.
She was learning, yes.
What tools or software are they using? So, I'm assuming Unreal Engine is one of them.
Yes. So
Okay.
we're using
Okay.
Unreal Engine in the class. Some of the students are starting to break into 3D now, and they're using Blender. And both
Oh,
of those are
cool.
industry standard programs. Actually, Unreal Engine, Disney Plus is using it when they're filming that show, The Mandalorian. So what they'll do is they'll use it. They won't make games with it because Unreal Engine can be used to make a lot of different things. They're using it for something called virtual production,
Okay.
and they have an they have an LED wall up, and they'll have their actors in front of it, and then they design all these 3D worlds in a 3D program like Blender, or Maya, and they'll bring them in. And the way Unreal Engine works is it's not like green screen where it just knocks out the background. You can have things in front of the actors, behind the actors, to the side. They can interact with them. And that entire show is filmed using Unreal Engine.
Oh, wow.
Some of the car companies, I believe it's Lexus, are using Unreal Engine to design their cars. And what they'll do is they'll put a VR headset on, and they'll walk around the car to see if they like the scale, if they like the curves, the lines, all of that. And then once they do, then they go and start creating the molds and everything for it. Architects are using it where they'll design buildings for people, and they'll have the clients come in and they'll put a VR headset on them, and they can walk through the entire building. And then with the controllers in VR, if they don't like the floor, they could click, they could point at it and click, and it'll go, say, from a wood floor to a tile floor to carpet. They could change the colors of the walls, and they could get this building to be exactly the way they want before it's ever built. And so it's being used in so many different ways. Their VR, AR, training simulation, architectural visualization, so many different areas.
Wow. That's wild. That is really wild.
And we have seventh graders at Biomed using that, which is just crazy. And they are thriving at it. I'm so proud of those students and what they've been able to pick up. Because honestly, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't sure if it was going to be too hard for them. And they're blowing me away right now with what they're doing. It's really cool. I have one student who has made a virtual museum in VR, and he's taken all of his projects that he's done in other classes, and he's hanging them up on the walls in this museum where you could walk through it in VR and see his art projects and everything. It's really cool.
That's clever. Yeah.
Mhm.
What kinds of games are they making?
As a class, we're making it's a rolling ball game where you control a
Okay.
ball and you have to roll it through an obstacle course.
Okay.
And there's a lot of coding in that they're learning how to do, like UI UX. They're learning physics. They're learning all that. But then in their free time, I'm looking around and walking around, and they're making all different games. I have some people that are making like third person games. Some are making first person. Some are just designing worlds. So they're working in their lab time, or not really free time, but their lab time. They're exploring what interests them,
Okay.
and just running with that. So we got, you could come in my class any day, and there's probably 10 different projects going on at the same time.
This is so fascinating to me because I just envision all of these young little learners like engaging with all of this cool tech and creating like things that we just don't even imagine because it lives in their brain.
And that's the fun part, is the imaginations that they have and these worlds that they're putting together and building. I just look at them. I wish I had a tenth of their imagination. I really do, because it's really really neat what they're doing.
Yeah, and for some reason, as I feel like as we get older, you just kind of lose some of that, as
Yes.
you know, are just out in the world, I guess. I don't know why it disappears or if you're more
I
aware of
completely agree.
reality or what I don't know what happens.
I think we put maybe more limitations on us, or we put more reasons why we can't do something, rather than going into it blindly and just saying, I could do this, and not knowing everything that it entails.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Mhm.
Um, so how do you ensure students are learning relevant skills that will set them up for future careers?
I try to keep my finger on the pulse with technology. Um, I, I, it's kind of funny. I get up in the morning for work. I get up about an hour before I have to leave for work, and I sit, and while I'm waiting to go to work, I watch YouTube, and I see what's out there, what people are doing. But also, I chat with industry people. I still have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and I'll reach out to them and say, what are you guys working on now? What are you guys doing? What's new? What's coming around the corner? What haven't I heard about yet? And that's kind of how I stay in touch, because technology, as we know, it changes by the week, sometimes by the day, especially with AI right now, and it's just it's hard to keep up with, but I rely on the people that I know that are in the industry. And then also, like I said, YouTube is like my best friend with things. There's so many things you can learn off of there. If YouTube could figure it out and take these people that are creating content and turn them into a college, it would probably be the best college around. um, it's it's crazy how much you can learn just off of watching YouTube.
Yeah, it definitely is a good little teacher at your fingertips. What advice would you give to other educators looking to introduce game design into their curriculum?
I would say just do it. I mean, the kids, it's easy to get engagement with them because it's you're taking the curriculum to where they're at, where they want to be, and it makes it a lot easier to introduce a lot harder curriculum to them if you could tie it in with that. Plus, Unreal Engine, for example, they have a week-long summer course that they do for educators where they'll give them curriculum, lesson plans. They'll give them kind of a run through of how to do things in Unreal Engine to get them started. Unity 3D is another game engine that, they're known for doing mobile games, AR, VR, pretty much everything you can imagine. They're another one. They have a great educator community, and you can learn a lot from there. And educators, there's a Unity Facebook group
Oh,
where
okay.
teachers will just share information with each other or share lessons that they did or what's working in class and what's not. But honestly, I would just say just set your mind that you're going to do it and just do it. Because if you think about it, you'll find a million reasons why not to.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's true about most things that sound
Yep.
scary.
Oh
Just
yeah.
just do
And
it.
it is, and you don't have to start with Unity or Unreal Engine if you're not comfortable with that. There's engines like Scratch, for example. That is a
Mhm.
great game engine to start with. It's a lot easier to learn, and that could be an intro into something like Unity or Unreal or Godot or whatever ones are out there now that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
Um, so there's so many resources online right now. Like I said, once again, YouTube, you can learn so much from YouTube. There's websites like Udemy, or I think
Oh,
that's how
yeah,
they pronounce it.
mhm.
Skillshare, all of them have so much information on there. But yeah, no, I think it's a great thing, and the kids really like it. And once here's the thing: if you can make learning fun, they're going to learn a lot. And for example, last week I wanted to teach my seventh graders about GitHub and version control, which is a very dry, boring topic. But we were able to tie it into the games that they're working on, and it made it a lot easier to teach them that. And I
Mhm.
got students now that are now using GitHub Desktop to connect to an online repo in the cloud. They're putting their game on there, they're sharing it with their friends to collaborate, and they're able to work on it at home. And I mean, that's very, very, very complicated to do. And if I tried to teach that in class just as its own lesson, they would have fell asleep.
Yeah.
But because it's taking it to where they want to be. I mean, they were paying attention and they were able to do it. So yeah, I think it's a great thing in schools. I really do, and it's the future. No
Yeah.
matter whether we like it or not, things are going in that direction where there's real-time 3D technology, immersive experiences. They're claiming that the Web 3.0 is going to be a lot more immersive than what we're even experiencing with the internet now. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think they're going to go into a lot of stuff with VR and AR and the metaverse. And I know the metaverse has had its ups and its downs and stuff, but I mean, Snoop Dogg bought a property in the metaverse for $4 million. There's got to be something to it. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, he bought a property for $4 million.
Wow.
Digital property that he's going to set up. And something to think about too with all this stuff is, what was it, maybe 5 years ago? One of the music artists, I can't remember his name now. Marshmello.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
his name was Marshmello. He held a concert in Fortnite, and they had tens of millions of people
Oh, yeah.
attend that
I
in Fortnite.
remember that. I remember that. That world is like, becoming it's meshing more with
Yeah.
ours.
Well, that was a couple years ago, right after the Super Bowl. The Foo Fighters had a concert in Meta's Horizon Worlds,
Okay.
and That was when it was really new, and I didn't know what it was. And I thought, okay, let me put on the VR headset. Let's see what this is.
Yeah.
And I was transported to this area that looked like a convention center with all these doors on it. And different doors went to different things like NBA games and stuff like that. And I was standing outside the door for the Foo Fighters concert, and all of a sudden I hear hello. And I turn around with my VR headset, and there's an avatar there. And I thought it was just an AI, programmed one. And here it was somebody that was over in China. They were also attending that concert.
Oh,
And I
wild.
thought to myself, wow, we've always been able to watch these things like through YouTube or something like that, but you lose that experience part of being at a concert with people to cheer with and talk to, and this is bringing that in. And I think if they get it right, it could really change a lot of things, even like online education.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of students going to a website, just reading things on a website or watching a video or even Zoom, you can be in the classroom with a VR headset or AR goggles and actually participate. I think if they do it right, I think it could be really amazing.
Yeah, the possibilities are vast for sure.
Yes.
Okay. So this is kind of, I guess, an interesting question, really, because I'm assuming that we have listeners who are not teachers. So, for industry professionals considering a move to teaching, what do you
hmm
think they should know after taking kind of that path?
It's a different world. It's a completely different world going from industry into teaching. Some people really love it. Some people don't. I would suggest doing kind of like I did. If you could find somewhere where you could be a guest speaker and get to spend a day with the students and kind of see what it's like to interact with them, see if it's for you. I think that's the best step. And a lot of the schools and career techs and everything, they're always looking for guest speakers. So it's not hard to do something like that. But I think that'd be the first step. And then, just start looking and see if there's openings. And like, if you're an industry person who doesn't have a teaching degree, career tech is the way to go. You can get into career tech schools and they have their own curriculum that you take while you're teaching. So that's really nice because you can get into teaching quicker and then you could, be taking the classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just get into a classroom and get to interact with the students and see if it's something that you think you would like doing. And for me, it was just like that day, it just something clicked with me. It's like, oh, this is really cool. This is what I want to do. And if you had asked me before that day, do you want to be a teacher? I'd have said, no way.
Yeah.
Never had an interest in it. But then that day, it just something changed for me that day. And I think that's a great step to getting there, I think.
Yeah. I think that's really great advice. I think it's really cool that you had that aha, like your aha moment kind of in that space of being a guest speaker, and it kind of clicked, which is, I don't know, I think a really cool thing to have happen to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a great
Oh,
conversation.
thank you for having me. It was really nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you found our discussion interesting and insightful. Don't forget to check out the show notes on our website where you'll find more information about today's guest, resources we mentioned, and information on earning contact hours for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with your network, and check us out at fortheloveofedtech.org. This podcast is produced by SOIDA, the Southwestern Ohio Instructional Technology Association, in partnership with Think TV and CET, the local PBS stations in Dayton and Cincinnati. Until next time, keep exploring new ways to empower your students through tech, and we'll catch you in the next episode.